Good Friday afternoon, everybody. I'm meteorologist Tim Pandages here with your tropical update. It's been a couple weeks since we've done one of these updates because we've had a period of very quiet weather in the Atlantic, but here we are wrapping up October, heading into November, and we've got another active period likely unfolding with Invest 95L. So that's an investigative area, a tropical wave that we're watching, that we tag it with 95L. This is a number that we recycle from 90 to 99. The L lets us know it's in the Atlantic Basin. It may seem odd covering tropical activity late in October, but we're still technically in hurricane season, lasts until November 30th, so we've got over another month to go. Here's where we stand right now in the basin in terms of our activity. 2 tropical waves, one near Bermuda that's got a low chance of developing within the next 5 days, 20% chance. Here is 95L, high odds of developing, 70% chance now within the next 5 days. So hurricane season again starts June 1st, goes to November 30th. We've got a little over a month to go here. And notice as you get towards late October, early November, you see a few blips and increase in activity. Of course, nowhere near what it's like during peak of the season, but you can certainly get development late October into early November. It looks to be around November 10th that we really see a sharp cutoff and a gradient downwards as activity wraps up by the end of November. Now, next name on the list is Lisa. Up after that, Martin and Nicole will be our 12th named storm of the season. All right, here's how it looks on infrared satellite imagery. Again, this tool lets us determine the temperatures of the cloud tops. Why that's important: the colder the cloud tops, the stronger the convection or thunderstorm activity because it reaches higher into the sky. We can determine that by the shades of white and black that pop up as the coldest cloud tops. We do certainly have very cold cloud tops, but spread out over a large area, nothing really concentrated or organized. 30% chance of this developing within 2 days, but over double that chance as we get into the next 5 at 70%. That puts it at high odds. Here are the stats on it right now. Some overall wind gusts may be approaching 25 miles per hour. It's moving to the west-northwest relatively slowly at 6 miles per hour. Now, this area looks familiar, doesn't it? Well, it's been an area we've revisited numerous times so far this season. It started early on the season back in June and July with Bonnie that tracked along the northern coast of Venezuela and moved due west. Didn't really develop until it got far into the western Caribbean. And then, of course, we had Ian that started off in the same general area as well and then lifted north and exploded in intensity. And then most recently, we've had Julia. Almost an exact same track as what we had with Bonnie, moved due west and made landfall in Central America. And here's where Invest 95L is located, within pretty much that bundle of those other 3 storm tracks. This is unusual to have so many low riding systems throughout an entirety of a season. The Caribbean is favored this time of the year climatologically for development, but again, with land interaction farther to the south, that proves a little less likely. Also, this time around, mid-levels of the atmosphere are much drier, out ahead of the system. So this is water vapor imagery. Shows us the moisture content in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. Super dry air is indicated by the rust color. All the oranges you see here out to the west of where Invest 95L is currently located there. If it drifts into that dry air, detrimental to it generating enough organization and enough moisture content to make it a tropical system that would be strengthening or intensifying. Visible satellite imagery doesn't show much organization here, really a broad spin overall. You can maybe make out a surface level circulation potentially there, but again, it's got some time to go before it really starts to get its act together. That's likely down the line later this weekend into early next week. Now, at the surface, in terms of the ocean surface, things have not really changed much. They're still very favorable in terms of warm ocean temperatures and that warm water extending down to a depth. We talk about the ocean heat content here, and why that is important with tropical systems is because as they strengthen and they get stronger and intensify, they mix up the ocean, something we call upwelling. So when a storm is mixing up the ocean, it's pulling up cooler waters from a depth and bringing it to the surface. When you've got warm, deep water, you're mixing up continuously warm water, so you almost have an endless supply of heat energy here. And this part of the Caribbean, the central and western part of the Caribbean, the northern Caribbean, has the highest heat content in the entirety of the basin. It is not really expected to track up towards that area, but it's a possibility. And even to the south of there, there's plenty of warm, deep water for it to take advantage of if all the other conditions are conducive, which, as you saw with dry air, we've also got wind shear that'll come into play over the next couple days. So it'll likely be a struggle for 95L. So what do the models see this doing? Each line you see here is a different computer model. We call this the spaghetti plots. And notice there is not a whole lot of consensus here. Best consensus is in the next 12 hours or so when you see the tightly clustered lines. Then you get farther out in the future, more possibilities of a solution, spreads, divergence, and then we see a general trend towards the west-northwest there. So areas in Jamaica, out in Haiti, Dominican Republic, portions of eastern Cuba. Keep an eye on this. Notice a lot of models do take it to the west-northwest and then drift it back to the south-southwest here. And you'll see that similar in the GFS ensemble. What this is the GFS model run 30 different times. There are 30 members. We change up the variable slightly to get a different outcome and see what we get. And it almost mirrors what we just saw with the other spaghetti plots there. A general west-northwest trend, and then a west and southwest trend, potentially headed towards Central America by the middle to end of next week. Here's what our in-house model shows as we go out into early next week. Shows it's starting to get its act together and developing as it gets close to the southern coast of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Notice it doesn't show a very strong system here, but if it continues to trend in this direction, as that warm, deep water, it'll just have to combat the dry air, of course, and the wind shear to get its act together. Now, as it looks right now, this does not look to be a threat to the United States. Why? Well, we've got front after front and boundary coming on and suppressing any activity, likely keeping it consolidated to the Caribbean. So Caribbean nations, Caribbean islands here, certainly need to keep an eye on it, but I don't think this is going to be a problem for the U.S. Generally, on average, the number of days from that position to reach the U.S., if it was to do so, is around 6 to 8. So we've got around a week or so to watch it, but again, I do not see this as being a problem for the United States. All right, until next time, that's the latest on the tropics with Invest 95L. If you have any questions, you can find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and also on TikTok at TimTalkWeather. Enjoy your weekend.